All right, State, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would like to make an initial argument and then reserve the rest of our argument for rebuttal. Morning, folks. Now, you just heard the reading of the charge. It's a mouthful. It's a lot to go through. So what I'm going to try to do is break it down a little bit for you, because some of the things you're going to see over and over and over in the charge. So I want to try to make that as clear as I can. Now, first of all, you have two counts in this case. Count 1 is capital murder, and count 2 is what we call felony murder. Now, what I want to do next is talk about, in each count, we have paragraphs. In count 1, the capital murder, we have 2 paragraphs. In count 2, that's the felony murder, we have 4 paragraphs. Now, this issue we talked about during voir dire. And I think it was, I can't remember if it was prospective juror number 21, somebody said when the issue came up, well, why do you have the various paragraphs? And that juror said, well, isn't it their job to do that? Isn't it their job to put forward the theories about why this offense was committed? And that's exactly right. The reason that we have multiple paragraphs is not because we're throwing things against the wall, it's because the facts fit those paragraphs for what he did. That's why we do it. Wouldn't you want us to be thorough and have those types of theories presented to you, to give you, the jurors, those options, those abilities to prove the case? Now, another important aspect is that you have to return a unanimous verdict in regards to the counts, not the paragraphs, as to the counts. For example, count 1, you have paragraph A and you have paragraph B. 6 of you can say, I believe he, with paragraph A, that's committing the aggravated sexual assault and also intentionally causing the death of Paula Boyd. And then 6 of you can say, well, I believe he intentionally caused her death while in the course of committing robbery. That equals guilty of capital murder. You don't have to be unanimous on paragraph A. You don't have to be unanimous on paragraph B. As long as all of you agree that it's one or the other, it equals guilty. Same thing goes for count 2, the felony murder. We have 4 paragraphs there. Aggravated sexual assault, robbery, injury to elderly, and also the last one is aggravated assault against a family member. Same thing. For example, 3 of you could agree on the first one, 3 on the second, 3 on the third, 3 on the fourth. You don't have to be unanimous in terms of the paragraphs, only the counts. As long as you all agree on the count, it equals guilty. You also have heard throughout the trial, and also in voir dire, and the judge read it here on the charge, the term deadly weapon. Now, we talked about that. A deadly weapon is anything that in its use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. And you agreed with us when we gave the examples that essentially anything can be a deadly weapon. Here what we have in the indictment, hands, and also objects unknown to the grand jury. We know that Paula Boyd met with a very ugly death. We know because of the various injuries that she suffered that it caused her death, thus meeting the definition of deadly weapon. Now, also in all the counts, both in count 1, both paragraphs, and in count 2, in all 4 paragraphs, you're going to see the same type of language over and over. And that's why I want to try to distill this as much for you as I can. The way that we're proving this is, 1, that she was strangled in some form or fashion, either with the hand or an object that we don't know, but we know that she was strangled based upon the testimony of Dr. McLean, or that she was struck with the hand of the defendant or an object unknown to the defendant. You saw those pictures. You saw how she was beaten, that she bit through her actual mouth. Like, you can see the tooth protruding. You can see her tongue. You can see that lip shredded, as Dr. McLean testified to. You know that she met with an ugly death by being beaten. Now, I want to distinguish between what is capital murder and what is felony murder. Capital murder is when you intentionally cause someone's death in the course of committing a certain felony. Now, the ones that we give to you are aggravated sexual assault, or robbery. Now, aggravated sexual assault, in this case, what we've had in our indictment, and in that paragraph, is paragraph A, count 1, is when you commit a sexual assault against somebody who's 65 years or older. We know Paula Boyd was 75 years at the time of her passing.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Judge. And then now switching to, and then you're committing rape. The next part is robbery. It's when you take something from somebody while committing some type of bodily injury. In this case, we know that her purse was taken. We know that her credit card was used on the same day, actually while they're processing the crime scene at 8558 Heber. We also know that Paula Boyd's cards ended up in the hands of David Rocha, and also Donald Lee Barnett's in that as well. Now, distinguishing capital murder from felony murder is when somebody's committing a certain crime, either aggravated sexual assault, robbery, injury to an elderly, or aggravated assault, and in the course of committing that crime, or in the immediate flight from committing or attempting to commit that crime, the person does an act clearly dangerous to human life that leads to her death. So the big distinguishing factor between the two is, did he intend to cause her death while committing aggravated sexual assault or robbery? Or was he just doing some other crime and did an act clearly dangerous to human life that led to her death? The issue is his intent to cause her death. That equals capital murder. Quickly, evidence is items that were marked and admitted as evidence that can come back to you, like the video, the photos. Evidence mostly is from that witness stand, from what you heard. What is not evidence is argument. What you are to consider is what came from up here, as well as the evidence that was submitted to you. Folks, I appreciate your time. I'm going to take a seat. Mr. Bunk will do his argument now. Thank you.
Morning. So I told you a while back, my name is Charles Bunk and I love my job. Today, not so much. I have 20 minutes, and in those 20 minutes, I have to talk to you. And what I have to say affects the rest of his life. His life is literally in my hands, and I've got 20 minutes to save it. Now, the difference between me and them is the number 20 and this number. $3,589. That's how many days they had to prepare. That's how many days they had to say, whatever we have, we will bring to you. And this is what you got. This is what you got. And I've got 20 minutes to try to explain to you why it's just not enough. What is this evidence? What is this evidence that is enough beyond a reasonable doubt to convince you that he is guilty of these crimes? And let's talk about paragraphs and counts. It doesn't matter. Either you believe this story or you don't. And it comes down to two things: the DNA and those two guys. And people said in voir dire, you know, we're really skeptical about DNA. And I thought, okay. And then I heard from Jamie Pomacall, who said, I would have never even written a report about sperm if the cops hadn't told me to. And I thought, well, God, no wonder people are skeptical about DNA. The cops tell them what to do. There would have never been a sexual part of this case at all if the cops hadn't told the crime lab to do it. That's how weak their opinion of the sperm evidence was. But yet, here we are, because Detective Hines told them to do it. And I'd like to tell you, well, at least take comfort that Detective Hines is really, really good at his job, and if he says it is so, you should find it that way. But I'm not comforted in that either. Because we listened to his testimony together, and I think we all agree that's not the case. Because what did he do? Well, you made a rush to judgment about this guy. It had to be him. Well, I said, what about these other people? What about David Rocha? Is he a suspect? Absolutely. Well, did you find him to be honest or dishonest? He's dishonest. Well, what about searching his apartment? No, I didn't need to do that. What about his cell phones? Now, at the time, I asked him that you didn't know what you later learned. I didn't search the cell phones, and he was never going to be able to, because as soon as David Rocha learned about all this, what did he do? He hightailed it out of here, and the first thing he did on his way out was break all of his cell phones. So that was never going to happen, and who else? Well, there's Frank. He's a suspect. He refused to talk to anybody. He didn't get searched. His phones were tracked. They said, oh, well, yeah, you can't carry. His phones were, he was over there, but it's okay because his mom also lives by. But I didn't have probable cause. He's a suspect in a capital murder, but I didn't think I had probable cause to search his house. And then there's this guy, Antonio Jones. Now, physically, he's a tall, skinny black guy. Now, what's important about Antonio Jones is several things. First, his physical description. Now, remember, there was a conversation about his mom. His mom's name is Christina. And there's an event at a party where a video is discussed. And Christina slaps her boyfriend, Robert, about filming something. Literally, she slaps him. Y'all filmed that? And then at some point later, this tall, skinny black guy kills Robert. He kills him. And he's in prison for that murder. So a guy who filmed something is killed by a guy who fits the description of being in a video of a murder. Now let's talk about that alleged video. This guy's Scotty Perez. Now, the detective says Scotty Perez calls and talks to the police. Now, unlike Rocha and Barnett, who clearly had something to gain from cooperating, right? Start with Barnett. He says, dude, I would have said anything. And Rocha got a deal as well. Perez got nothing. There was no testimony that Perez called and said, hey, what's in it for me? Is there a Crime Stopper tip? Do I get anything? He just said, hey man, I need to tell somebody. I saw this video and it's horrible. And then he describes what he saw on the video. Two tall, skinny black guys, ironically, or in this case, not ironically, Antonio Jones, who killed a guy who filmed something, a tall, skinny black guy. And what does Scotty Perez describe? Two guys kicking and beating this woman to death. Now, how would Scotty Perez know how Paula Boyd died? How would he know if he hadn't seen the video? Now fast forward to Dr. McLean's testimony. How was she killed? Kicked and beaten to death. Her broken ribs. Now they want to tell you that because Fat RC sat on her, that broke her 15 ribs. When I asked him, also consistent with somebody kicking her when she's down? Absolutely. She's beaten on both sides of her face. Consistent with two guys doing it? Absolutely. How would Scotty Perez know that if he hadn't seen the video? Think about that. Now they want to say, oh, it never happens. Scotty Perez made all that up. Really? It's just a coincidence? There cannot be coincidences that are that close to the facts. There can't be. We're going to bring you everything we have. Well, I'm still waiting. It's a capital murder. What did you get from the crime scene? Glasses. Glasses! What about this? What about this towel? What about anything? They're going to tell you the towel has nothing to do with it. Well, how do we know? How do you know? So you got two guys that come in, beat her to death in the middle of the day. She's going to scream. What stops that screaming? This towel. This towel. Could that towel have his DNA on it? Absolutely. Who says so? Their expert. If she's going to pull the towel out of her mouth in this picture, what hand does she use? Her left hand. What hand's extended? Her left hand. Where's his DNA? Under her left hand. Is that a coincidence? They're going to tell you, of course, it's just a coincidence. How do we know? We can't know. You can't know because you got glasses. They tried, Stephen, like, oh, well, DNA can't last 20 days. It can last 30 years, he said. So let's talk about RC. Darrell says you can make logical inferences from the facts. What on earth does this man have to gain from doing that? He's going to get up and preach about how he doesn't have to prove motive. And he's right. But you can ask yourself, let me get this straight. Santa Claus, her Santa Claus, takes his kids to school and says, you know what? I'm going to go over and beat my kid's great-grandmother to death and rape her. For what? He has his own money coming that night. They have a great relationship. Everybody told you that. Everybody told you. If there was ever any evidence that he was ever mean to her, you would have heard it. There's no evidence. He cleaned her house. He drove her on her errands. No evidence. And speaking of no evidence, they're going to tell you, because her card was used on Huebner, and he says he went to a convenience store on Wurzbach or Huebner, it had to be him. Why? Why does it have to be him? Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that he used that card on Huebner? Where? 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 Where is the evidence in in his statement. And also, he went down and talked to the police voluntarily. I'll answer all your questions. I challenge you to find one thing they can prove to you that he lied about. Where is one thing that he lied about? One thing. Did they bring you evidence that anything in his statement was a lie? No. Not one thing. Nothing. So, 3,589 days later, we start this trial, and that's what you got. They're going to get up and say, this poor lady deserves better. She deserves justice. And she does. She absolutely does. I feel so sorry for Paula's family. I feel sorry because she's got a daughter that's sitting over here, and she's got a daughter that is sitting over here. And I feel terrible for them because they deserve better. And I feel terrible for him because they might get away with this. Everybody, you deserve better. The community deserves better. I'll tell you what I do know, sadly, if this was David Robinson's grandmother, you'd have gotten a lot better. That's what I do know. It's very, very sad. They told you, or I told you actually, they're going to tell you, take this leap of faith with us.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Judge. I didn't realize at the time that they were going to be pushing you off of Mount Everest when they told you to take this leap. They're going to get up and say the DNA is rock solid. It's rock solid. He was there. Well, yeah, he was there. He's there all the time. His laundry is certainly there all the time. Erica brings his laundry over all the time. All the time. They do their laundry there. He may have been there October 1st. I don't know when Erica last brought the laundry, but JD told you they bring the laundry all the time. Just like JD told you, we like RC. RC helps my grandmother all the time. What did JD not tell you? He's mean to her. I'm scared of him. We're scared of him. Nobody is scared of Santa Claus. He just woke up one day and did this? Come on. Come on. How could they have proven this? They could have swabbed her neck for DNA. That would have told you something. Didn't. Even today, right now, he asked you, wouldn't you want us to be thorough? Yes. Yes. Beyond a reasonable doubt means there's no other explanations. There's no other suspects. Well, there are other explanations. There are certainly other suspects. I hope you don't think throughout this ordeal I wasted your time, or I took too much time, or I objected too much. But I've been with RC throughout this ordeal for a long time. And if he looks nervous, it's because he is. He is. I know they're going to get up and tell you that I'm just making shit up. That I'm just saying anything. The evidence doesn't support what I'm saying. And sadly, part of that's true. I can't tell you the towel supports my theory because I don't have it. But their witnesses tell you the towel could support my theory if I had it. the evidence does tell you they told the lab to change their report. Scotty Perez tells you, I saw the video, or he saw the video that describes the assault the medical examiner describes. How? How? Lee and Rocha, he's going to tell you, well, they told you exactly what happened. Really? You're going to convict, you're going to send this guy for the rest of his life in a cage on those two guys? Their testimony is going to put him in a cage for life? Those two guys? Really? Come on. It is terrible what happened to her. I agree. Somebody has to pay. I agree. But just because the government says it's him, that doesn't make it so. Please tell them, just because they say it is, doesn't make it so. And in this case, it's not so. Thank you.
How much time do I have, y'all?
13 minutes and 16 seconds.
Thank you. Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Bunk is right about the approach I'm going to take. He's had my job. And because he's had my job, he knows what he can intimate, he knows what he can suggest. You saw it. You saw it over the course of this trial. You heard it from the first time he got up here. You saw the confusion. You saw the nonsense that got generated. What you need to do when you go back and deliberate is separate all that noise, all that confusion, the maps, etc., that didn't come in because they don't mean anything, they didn't prove anything. What you need to do, pardon the pun, is ignore all the bunk and focus on what we know to be the facts. The fact is 75-year-old Paula Boyd, handicapped, who still worked at 75, was always regular, on time, so much so when she didn't show up for her 1 o'clock appointment, people got worried and they went to find her. You know that Gracie DeWalt, before 3 o'clock, got there, found the police when they arrived. There is an evidence. You saw the picture from the clock, 3:09. You heard from the medical examiners that with rigor and all of it set in, she could have died as early as 8 that morning or 9. So when does a woman who has to be driven across I-10 to get to her job, driven to the bank, how does she get to 8558 Huebner where her card is used? Cards that were never found, not by the detectives on the 21st, not by Brenda when she got in to clear out her apartment. Where's the purse she carried every day? When you listen to his statement, he knows where his unemployment card is. It's right in my doggone wallet. But we don't find any identification from Paula Boyd. You know, he is the one that gave it to Lee and Rocha the next day. Within 72 hours, he's trying to get that hot evidence out of his hands. And oh, by the way, running down Barnett, listen to his statement. Lee is his alibi on Wednesday. I was smoking a cigarette with Lee. I was going to borrow some money from Lee. I'm going to do all this with Lee. Lee's his alibi. And now when Lee finally finds out what that man got him into and decides to tell the truth, tell what he did in this crime, now all of a sudden Lee is making it up. Lee's his alibi. He's the one that tells you about Lee. That's the nonsense. That's the bunk you need to remove. RC's phone is nowhere near Paula Boyd's. He tells the police, I hadn't paid my bill in months. My phone didn't come on till 9:30 Wednesday night, the 21st. And that's supposed to exonerate him? That's the nonsense. I told you when we started what we had to prove, and I'm standing here, ladies and gentlemen, to say the evidence proves it. And so I'm asking you, when you go back to deliberate, when you get to that jury verdict, you drive past that first paragraph and you go to the bottom one, Mr. and Ms. Foreman, and you find him guilty of capital murder because he sexually assaulted a 75-year-old woman who was so impaired, so infirm, he killed her literally on top of her cane. I know of no other way that spermatozoa, the first fluid Jamie identified, sperm. I know of no other way that sperm leaves the male body other than through its sexual organ, and it is deposited in her mouth. The doctor told you 15 rib fractures, 8 on the left side, 7 on the right side, a heavy weight pressing down, breaking her while he pounds on the right side of her face. And in that moment, when he sat his words, 340 pounds, when you look at the video, look at those ham hocks he had for arms. And she was able to get his DNA under her nails. Spiral fracture at C7. Paralyzed her instantly. He told you it was serious bodily injury. And it killed her. You know why? Look at how she was found. The pictures of the bathroom, that flowery road. She knew she had to go to work at 1. Yes, as they pointed out. The maintenance man saw her watering her plants at 8. She's getting ready to go to work. Autopsy, time of death. When could she have gone to do it? And where are her documents? He went there after dropping the kids off at school, after dropping his wife at career point, when he has no alibi. He's unaccounted for. And he goes over, let me have the card, let me use it. She finally, in 75 years, said no, and he went off. And he left there with that evidence. He left with that purse. He left with her cards. And oh, by the way, 8558 Hebner, you heard the detective, at least 3 miles away. She can't get there and get back to be killed when the medical examiner says she's killed. He did it. When he talks about, Lee was then going over to his mother's house in Wurzbach and he's going to lend me money, but he called me. His phone isn't on till 9:30 at night, so how does he get a phone call from his alibi when he tells police? He can't keep his lies straight when you know the whole story. And oh, by the way, I was going to Wurzbach and Hebner. That is called a lie. He was at 8558 Hebner. You know because you got his bank records. He didn't check his balance nowhere. That's how you know he's lying. Because of the story he made up that doesn't fit the evidence. And so if for some reason you decide you can't get to capital murder, we have given you evidence and proved felony murder every way we could think of. And Steve told you why. But that man, right there, watch his statement. Go from what you know.
5 minutes.
Spermatozoa can stay in her mouth for 3 weeks. Come on, man. Be real. And yes, you heard Barnett say, why did I tell Stacks, the other person, didn't want to cooperate? This is how he left her. This is how he wants to believe. And it's unfortunate about murder trials, we have to go there. That's how she needs to be remembered. With the people who loved her. Somebody hadn't been there in 3 weeks, but Mijo, her grandson, who just saw her Monday, 2 days before left, he's got no DNA on her body. This is how she needs to be remembered. With the community she served, the customers who loved her, the people who loved her. She is calling out to us from heaven. He did it. He did it. Let me rest. I told you this from the beginning. The evidence supports every step you need to make. And I am asking you, you know it's what happened. Ladies, you know where you carry your documents. They never found them because he took them, because he gave them to Barnett, because he knew, let me put somebody else on video. Let me put other people between me and them. He did it. He comes off all shucks, he's slick, nickel slick. She's trying to get to work. He interrupts her. She finally says no. He's waiting for his unemployment. Think about that. Some may say it's a cheap shot. It's also the truth. Those are facts. I'm coming back again. You know the evidence. Yes. The sin is 3,589 days. I join in and agree with that. Because that's the system, I bear that, I'm the one that you look to for responsibility. But we never wavered. We fought through it all to get here to this day to finally tell Paula Boyd's story. To finally stand for her family. Yes, even Marty, I know she disagrees with me, but I know she misses her mother. And this is the evidence I have, the admissible evidence. That is why I am asking you, when you come in to deliberate, come back with the only verdict the law and the evidence provides. I am asking you to find him guilty of capital murder. If you can't get there, that he intended to kill her and committed this other act, then he intended to do the theft. He intended to do the assault on an elderly. He intended to do the assault causing serious bodily injury to a family member. He intended to do the sexual assault. And then she died. Felony murder. I'm asking you to follow the evidence and find the verdict of guilty. Because you know he did it. How do those other two get the cards the day after while the autopsy's being done? And they said they got it him. And before you start condemning him, again, Barnett is his alibi. Who, when he finally figured out what this guy got him involved with, he said, hell to the no. Yeah, I'm coming clean. And Barnett got Rocha, where they smoked the meth at his house. It all fits and makes sense. He's it. He's Everybody else admitted to the cards. We got two people that said he got them. He's the conduit. No one else. I thank you for your verdict.